Welcome to Ripcaster. My name is John Nelson, and today we're going to be looking at the Linn Selekt DSM family of products. In October 2022, Linn announced some new additions, and so what we're going to do today first is look at all the different components in the Selekt family, the different chassis, the modules, the DACs, etc. And then once we've done that, I'm going to show you 10 different applications, practical setups, how a Selekt DSM might work in your home. So I've changed cameras, and what we're going to do now is look at all of the components which are in the Selekt range. Use all our demonstration equipment that we've got here. Obviously, I welcome you to come and visit Ripcaster so that you can see and hear these products in whatever configuration you want. So to start off with, the Selekt comes in a choice of two basic enclosure styles. There's the Selekt Classic and the new Selekt Edition. We've got the original Classic, as it's now called, and we've got the new Edition that was released in October 2022. The Classic is available in black, the Editions are available in black or in the anodized silver. Originally, they are the same, so they've got the same controls and the same modular nature, and in fact the modules that we'll come on to in a minute will work in either chassis. So you've got a choice of two chassis, Classic or Edition. What we'll do now is I'll put one on the side and we'll have a look at the rear of both the Classic and the Edition. The beauty of the Selekt range is its modularity, and we can populate it with whatever modules you want. So if I slide the case lid off, here you will see the internals of the Classic unit here. So here is where the modules, up to 3 of them, can go. The power supply on all Selekt Classics and Selekt Editions has now been upgraded to Linn's latest power supply technology called UTOPIC, and that's available as an upgrade to previous Selects as an upgrade, and is likely to be rolled out as a power supply architecture to the rest of their range. If we now just take the lid off the top of the Selekt Edition, then you'll be able to see the similarities. So I've taken the set screws out of the back here. I then can slide the case back, undo a ribbon cable at the front, and now I can lift the lid off. Again, if we look at the internals of the Selekt Edition, similar layout, again featuring the UTOPIC power supply. We've got our module slots, and we've also got the same expansion for the HDMI. So now we've seen the two chassis, the Classic and the Edition. Let's take a look at the different components that we can put inside it. So that'll be the modules, the DACs, and the HDMI upgrades. So I've got all of the modules here on the table in front of me. Let's take a look at what each of those does. So the first module I've got here is an integrated power amp module. So this allows us to connect speaker connections directly to this unit. So it's a 100 watt into 4 ohms, 50 watt into 8 ohms module. We can populate up to 3 of those in the chassis. So that's the power out module. Next one is a stereo line out, and it features balanced and unbalanced stereo outputs, and again we can fit up to 3 of those inside the Selekt Classic or Selekt Edition chassis. The next module is the mono line out, again a single balanced XLR and unbalanced RCA output, and we would fit 2 of these into a chassis. Again, works in either the Classic or the Edition. There is also one other module, it's called a hybrid module, and that features 1 power amplifier channel and 1 line out channel, and that's typically used in surround applications to provide you with a sub and a center channel. Typically is what you would use that card for, so 1 hybrid module. That is all the modules: power amp, stereo line out, mono line out, and the hybrid module. So you see on each of these modules there is a gap here, and this is where the DAC goes, and you've got a choice of 3 varieties of DAC. Alright, so here we have all the DACs, and they fall into 2 categories. We've got stereo DACs here, and we've got mono DACs here. The stereo DACs can fit in stereo cards, so stereo line out, stereo power out modules can take any of the stereo DACs. They're available in standard DAC, catalyst DAC and the highest performance organic DAC. We've also got some mono DACs here, and they're both organic and they work in the mono line out cards. The DACs are kind of plug and play, so we just fit the module directly into the DACs, directly into the cartridge. So here we've got a Selekt Edition with the lid off. I'll just show you how we fit. In this case, we're going to put the two mono DACs modules directly into the unit. So we've taken out the back plate here. There are two blanking plates, and we can then just slide the unit in. Clicks in like so. So that's one channel. Get the next module. Again, nice and snugly clicked in. We'll then just secure those with these set screws. We've had a look at the modules and the DACs. Let's now take a look at the other options available for the Selekt DSM. First up, we've got the new Utopic power supply. This is fitted as standard to all new Selekt Edition and Selekt Classics since October 2022, but this can be purchased as an upgrade for earlier Selekt Classics. Utopic is Linn's latest architecture of power supply, and we will expect to see this becoming available for previous generation Klimax and Accurate products as upgrades in the future. If we look here on the back of the Selekt, you'll see there's a blanking plate here, and that will take this card here, which is an additional HDMI module. It allows you to feed additional HDMI sources, but it's also got an eARC input as well. The one, which is the single one which is on standard here, is just an ARC. This one is eARC. Ordinarily, this board will handle multi-channel PCM, but if you need it to decode the actual signal, so you want to use it in an AV type situation, you would also fit this module onto this board, and it just fits on like so. But that is a Dolby decoding module that allows you to feed a full multi-channel signal which is encoded and then play that through your Linn system. So we've looked at the whole Linn Selekt range now. We've got the two chassis, the Selekt Edition and the Selekt Classic. We've looked at the modules. We've looked at the DACs which go in those modules, standard, catalyst and organic. We've looked at the power supply upgrades, Utopic, and we've looked at the HDMI options as a standard HDMI board and also with the HDMI multi-channel decoder. That's the theory bit. Now we get on to the practical bit of how can we actually make music using this system. Okay, so now we're into the practical section where we're going to show you 10 different applications of how the Selekt DSM can be configured in practical examples of how it might be used within your home. For each of the systems, we're going to set things up in the middle of the room like this, with the speakers, with the equipment, Selekt DSM and anything else that's needed, and then we'll show you around the rear of it of how the actual module's configured in the actual DSM and what cabling, etc. we're using to connect all the different bits of the system together. Okay, so this is the first system, and it features Linn's flagship Klimax 350 integrated Exakt speakers and a Selekt Edition. We've got no modules in here. This is in an Exakt configuration. The speakers, as you'll see, have got all the amps and all the DACs in the back of the speakers. Let's have a look how it's physically connected at the rear. So if you look at the back of the Selekt Edition, we've got no modules in here. This is acting purely as a system hub in this instance. If we look at the connections, we've got an AudioQuest mains cable, we've got an AudioQuest Ethernet cable. It does support wireless, so that is optional, but we always recommend wired if possible. And then we're using the Exakt links here, one to each of the speakers. So this is the back of the Klimax 350 speaker. This module contains all the amps and DACs, etc. for driving the speaker. This one happens to be Catalyst. We do also happen to have Organic, so if you wanted to listen to both Klimax 350s in and Catalyst, and with the new Organic DAC, that can be arranged. So there's only 2 cables that connect to the speaker, mains power to each speaker, and then a data cable that goes back to the Select. Okay, system number 2. This one we're using a Select Classic, again with no modules, and we've got it connected to a pair of key fully active speakers. Now these have got clever DSPs going on inside them of their own, and so we are using the Select as a transport only. So we're taking a digital output from the Select into the key system and played through these speakers. Linn don't often talk about this much, but all of the DSMs can be configured as a digital only out, so the DSM behaves as a digital transport. So here we are looking at the back of the Select Classic. Again, no modules this time. And again, we've got mains into the Select. We've got our Ethernet, and again, we could go wireless. And we're using a coaxial digital output. This output needs to be configured as a digital output, and that is going into this key control. It's got various digital inputs, so it's got a coaxial input here, which we've selected, and then the actual gives you a volume control here as well, and that then is fed over another data cable to the back of the key speakers. So here's the back of the key speaker. We've got mains going to each speaker. We've got our signal coming from the volume control over data, and then we've got another Ethernet cable which goes to the secondary system. There's a primary speaker and there is a secondary speaker. Again, this is a fully active digital DSP with multiple amps, multiple drive units, front and rear. Very interesting product, again, well worth coming to have a listen to. So here's the next system. I'm cheating a little bit here because I've not got all the components. We're using a Select Edition, or indeed a Select Classic would work, as a system hub. No modules in here, and we're using it with a Linn ExaktBox. Now, ExaktBox is a whole other story in itself, and there are some videos on our channel that you can check out which talk about how Exakt works. But basically this box can be used to drive either a single pair of speakers in a fully exact manner, where each individual driver is driven independently, so a separate amplifier for each individual drive unit on the speaker. It can also be used in what's called a stereo pass-through mode, where it gives us, in this instance, 6 individual channels, and that's typically used when you've got a multi-channel decoder fitted into the Select, and that will then give us our, in this instance, 6 channels, which we could configure as front left, front right, centre, rears, surrounds, sub, for example, would be a typical configuration of how you would set that up. Let's have a look at what we've got connected, and I'll probably put a schematic on the screen to show how it might be connected in both a stereo setup with a pair of speakers, or indeed in a multi-channel setup with this configured as a stereo pass-through. So on here we are, we've got the rear of the Select Edition. Again, we've got mains, we've got Ethernet, and we've got a single Exakt link cable coming from the back of the Select into the ExaktBox. We've got mains, we've got the Exakt link going in, and here we've got the 6, in this instance, output channels that can be configured for either a pair of 3-channel loudspeakers in externally Exakt mode, or 6 channels in stereo pass-through. All the systems that we're going to go through today, except this one, are applicable equally to the Edition hub and the Select Classic hub. This one only applies to Edition. And one thing that we didn't mention when we initially looked at the product was the fact that on the front, this one has got a headphone jack just on the side here. So I can, without any modules, plug headphones in and enjoy the music. Here we're demonstrating the standard one box solution, just add speakers. So we've got a power out module in here, with a choice of DAC, and that could be a stereo standard DAC, stereo catalyst DAC, or standard stereo organic DAC. And we've got it connected to a pair of passive Audiovector R3 speakers. Let's have a look at the way it's cabled. You can see the back of the Selekt Classic, again mains and data, and we've now populated one of the modules with a power out cartridge, and that gives us our 4 speaker connectors, right channel, left channel, and then we've just got conventional speaker cable, Linn K200 in this instance, going to the back of our Audiovector speakers. Next system, again Selekt Classic, this time with a line out module feeding an external power amplifier. It happens to be a Linn Accurate 4200, but anybody's power amplifiers will work. And we're driving these Audiovector R1 Arete loudspeakers. So here's the back of our Selekt. We're using a line out card here. We've got a choice of XLR balanced or unbalanced connectors. We're using XLR. Power and data, back of this Accurate 4200. We're only using 2 channels. Our XLR inputs into the amplifier, and then our speaker cables going to the back of the loudspeaker, connection into the back of the Audiovector R1 Arete. Next system, so what we've got here is a Selekt Edition, an Accurate 4-channel 4200 power amplifier, and a pair of Audiovector R3 Arete speakers. And what we're demonstrating here, we've got 2 line out cards in here, giving us 4 channels of output using our 4 channels of amplifier, and we're driving these, effectively bi-amping them, so we're using 2 channels of amplification for each speaker. So we've kept the passive crossover in the speaker, but we're effectively bi-amping them. So I've taken the lid off here so you can have a look, and we've got the 2 modules. Our DACs, again, we've got a choice of stereo standard DAC, stereo catalyst DAC, or stereo organic DACs. 2 cards, and we're using XLR, so we've got 4 signal cables coming out, going into the 4 channels available in our Accurate amplifier. So we can define what speakers are attached to the system. So in this instance, we've defined that we've got 2 Audiovector R3s. And what we're going to do is we'll get a left and right off each one, left and right, sorry, wrong way around, left and right. Okay, so we will feed our signals into our amplifier, and so what we've got here is our right speaker and our left speaker connections, and we are driving the speaker by amps effect. Alright, so this is just the detail on the back of the Audiovector R3 Arete. So we can see that we're driving the treble frequency here and the mid and bass off this channel. Normally if we're just driving these in a conventional way, we would have these bridge plates going across here to link the 2 if you're just using a single stereo amplifier. Ostensibly this is a very similar system to the previous one. We've swapped the speakers out for a pair of Kudos Titan 606s. One of the interesting things about the whole Titan range, Super 10s, Super 20s, and the whole of the Titan range is that they are capable of bypassing the passive crossover in the system. This allows us to drive the individual drivers. This is a 2-way speaker, so we've got the upper frequencies here, and then we've got an isobaric mid and bass unit here. And so by bypassing the crossover in the speaker, we can drive the speaker directly using the Exakt filter for this particular speaker. So again, it's a 2-way speaker, so we need 4 channels of amplification, which we've got in our AkkuratBox here, and we need 2 line-out cards in the Selekt. Again, it's cabled in exactly the same way as the previous system. The only difference is that because of the way that the speakers are configured, it allows us to bypass the internal crossover. So we'll just take a look at that now. Okay, so here is the back of the Titan speaker, and they've got the same or similar crossover layout on the back of all the Super 20s, Super 10s and all the Titan range. If we were just using a conventional passive If we were just using a conventional passive stereo amplifier, we'd put it on here. But if we take these links out, and these I've eased out to make them easy to pull out, they're not quite this easy, it allows us to drive, bypassing the internal crossover, directly the bass driver and the treble. And so that is exactly how we would drive this. We would feed one channel directly with the, got the exact configuration on the Select for this specific model of speaker. Next system is pretty much similar to the previous one we've just done. So we're still using Titan 606s. We're still using them in externally Exakt, so we still bypass the crossover in the speakers, but we're doing it with a single box. We're doing it with a Select Classic in this instance, and we've fitted 2 power out modules in here. Again, this is behaving like an ExaktBox with 2 power amplifiers, giving us 4 channels of amplification. So treble, mid and bass, treble, mid and bass, and again we loaded the exact filters for this particular speaker to drive these by bypassing the crossover by removing the links off the back of the speaker. I'm going to kind of cheat here and say we can also do exactly the same for if you wanted to bi-amp. So again, if we use the R3 aretes, which are capable of being bi-amped, we could do exactly the same. We could define just a pair of R3 arete speakers, take off the links off the back of the speakers, so still using the crossover in the arete speakers, but driving them with dedicated amplifiers, bi-amping them using the crossover in the speakers. Again, we've got a spare slot here, so if you can tri-amp something, again you could put another power out module in here and you could tri-amp a pair of speakers. So I think we're almost at the end now. This is the last system. And this is the highest performance configuration we can get. So we have got Select Edition here. We've got dual mono line out cards with dual mono Organic DACs. We're feeding it into Linn's Klimax Solo mono amplifiers. And we just happen to be using a pair of Titan 707. So we're using the passive crossover in the Titans. And we're just driving them in a traditional passive configuration. Dual mono Organic DACs, dual mono power amps. So here you can see the rear of the Select with the dual mono cards. Again, we're using XLR outs. We could use unbalanced if we wanted. Power and data into the device before. The power amps here, so these are Klimax Solos. We've got our input signal and our speaker cable connecting to each of our Titan speakers on the passive input using the crossover in the speaker. Alright, one more thing, as they say in California. I've now just connected up the Select LP12 to use the built-in moving coil phono stage on the Select Edition just to complete our system. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it's not more enlightening than confusing. You can see that we've got a lot of kit here that we can play with. We'd love to be able to demonstrate it to you, so please give us a call, get in contact, let us know what you've got and we can arrange a demonstration for you with the equipment that we've got here. Thanks for watching.